am a big fan of building strength through powerful movements. Like any other yoga and martial arts practitioner, I am a big proponent of building power through relaxation. And one of the best ways to build power is through mobility. So today I will show you one of the easiest ways, one of the least effort requiring ways to build true mobility by utilizing one of the oldest things and one of the most comfortable things humans have been doing since the beginning of their existence, which is sitting down. Because if you thought effort is the only way to work on your mobility, you are sorely mistaken. And today we're going to find out how you can do it by putting in almost zero effort. One of the most common questions I get asked very regularly is, what is the best fitness equipment to get when in fact you're already in possession of it? The ground and gravity. And for a very good reason. So if you're ready, let's go and have some fun. If you have been on this channel before, you are very likely familiar with my love to the 90-90 switch. However, you do not actually need to work on this in a dynamic way to start building the necessary mobility for going through those movement patterns. Instead, familiarizing yourself with this position in a static way can have a myriad of benefits when it comes to ankle, knee, and hip mobility, especially as we grow older and for people who do not take their knees through a full range of motion. And while one of the myths that I still hear consistently is that going through a long range of motion by squatting too deeply with heavy weights is bad for your knees, it is in fact quite the opposite. Not taking your knees ever through a full range of motion, both when it comes to with as well as without resistance, is pretty bad for your knees. And working on those seated positions where your knees not only have a full range of motion when it comes to flexing, but also when they have the tiniest bit of torque or a rotation in the joint, which puts a little bit of pressure on the joint, the ligaments and the tendons themselves, can have massive benefits for joint health. This position will also help us getting to full ankle extension or dorsiflexion, which will in turn help us lengthen our tibialis, which is very important when it comes to ankle mobility and can hinder people when it comes to positions such as the deep squat or the resting squat. So switch between this position into both directions until you can very comfortably sit like so, opening up your hips as well as stretching your glutes and helping you with a little bit of lower spine or lumbar rotation, which is intrinsically connected to our hip and lower body mobility. And if this gets too uncomfortable, a very easy way to take off some of the pressure from your joints is either by elevating your butt, like so, until you feel more comfortable to start sitting on the floor, or leaning diagonally backwards on the side of the front leg, like so, which in turn is going to take off most of the pressure from your hips as well as your knees. And even easier, by leaning backwards on the wall, taking off even more pressure and requiring the minimum amount of strength from your abdominals until you can scooch on closer and closer, sitting fully upright, helping us even more with our hips. And for those of you who are even more advanced and enjoy a little bit more of a stretch, you can also lean forward, which is one of the best ways to help us with flexibility surrounding our hip joint, specifically in our posterior chain when it comes to our glutes, which is very helpful when it comes to working on more dynamic movement patterns such as this one. One of the oldest and most useful resting positions is the deep squat, resting squat, Indian squat, Asian squat, whatever you want to call it. Getting your body into this deep resting squat position with full range of motion in your knees as well as your hips when it comes to flexion extends its benefits way beyond mobility, all the way to better digestion and better bowel movements, which also, as you're getting older, can become a real problem. And while in the modern age we have been calling this an exercise, this is probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest resting position humans have been taking in naturally, and probably a majority of people can't even get into anymore, which is a testament to all the capabilities we have lost as modern day humans. Now, if you're struggling with getting into this position, I have a full guide here that takes you through it step by step, but here are the key points for making this a lot easier on you until you develop the necessary mobility to sit in this position very comfortably. Number one, elevating your heels will make it a lot easier for you to stay in this position with an upright upper body and the minimum amount of effort required to relax into a deep squat. And number two, if you are on the taller side, specifically your femur being longer, then standing in a wider stance as well as an external rotation in our hips by turning our feet outwards will also make it a lot easier to bring our hips between our legs and sit down comfortably in a lower position. So finding out where in the spectrum you are when it comes to a lack of ankle, knee and hip mobility, as well as length of femur and basic anatomy for your lower body, by finding out if you are more comfortable in a narrow parallel stance with elevated heels, an externally rotated wide stance, or even just flat-footed but wider apart, will make it a lot easier for you to progress, and over time you will be able to reduce those elevations and get into a narrower stance if you feel like it. But as long as you are comfortably sitting with flat feet and without as much as any engagement in your core musculature and hip musculature, just through gravity, then you're doing everything correctly. Now, I just came back from Japan, and while we did enjoy some of the more comfortable hotels, it was, for me at the very least, very refreshing to enjoy this low ground, more traditional way of living, where basically everything we do was done on the floor. This brings us to this, the Seiza position, which has been used there for hundreds of years. And while this is less of a relaxing position for most people, due to cutting off some circulation in your lower limbs, if you are not used to sitting this way, it is amazing at helping you go through a full range of motion when it comes to your knees as well as your ankles. And here is the amazing part: we also have enough pressure put onto our lower legs to really help us stretch out our tibialis and all the surrounding muscles, tendons and ligaments that go through our lower legs. With this position also being very easy to access by elevating your butt like so until you do not feel too much pressure and do not feel too much blood loss in your lower limbs, to start reducing that elevation and sitting down on your feet, and then even more as you progress, sitting down in a wider position like so and leaving enough space for your hips to touch down with your butt all the way to the floor can maximize your knee mobility and help you with hip mobility, especially with your adductors as well. And once again, giving us this rotation onto our knees to strengthen them in what are some compromised positions that, when not trained, can lead to injury very quickly. Now, sitting cross-legged is one of the most natural positions for a lot of people, especially when you move into the yoga space, when it comes to sitting in a lotus position or even a hanging lotus position, which, while it is not very comfortable and very relaxing, it is a pretty effective way of conditioning yourself. And ironically enough, while this is a more relaxing position for a large chunk of the world, for another chunk that is probably just as large, it is a very hard position to get into and very uncomfortable. In that case, once again, by leaning back like so and starting in a more relaxed position for our upper body, can help us start working on the necessary mobility, and over time simply scooching closer and closer until we are fully upright with our upper body, helping us work on our flexibility in our posterior chain, opening up our hips and working the tiniest bit on our ankles, and once again, knee mobility with the tiniest bit of force when it comes to rotation to help us bulletproof them even more. And once again, if that is also not enough and you are struggling with getting into this position, elevating your knees like so, you can use yoga blocks for this, you can use some weights, you can use books, whatever you have at home, and relaxing into it, or even adding this lean back will make it so much easier for you to get into this position. Which over time, once again, we can start reducing that elevation where we place our knees, and over time we should be able to relax here without having any problems. And if you want to take this a little bit further, of course you can start working on the semi-lotus seat or the full lotus seat, or if you're really crazy, work on this hanging lotus as well. Now this is where things start getting really interesting, because you can start mixing and matching. The more you get comfortable in those low positions, the more you can choose how you sit, find out where you are more comfortable, where you are less comfortable, and start working on those positions a little bit more while you are seated at home, relaxing. Maybe you're playing a game, maybe you're reading a book, or you're just sitting there contemplating life you can already start working on your flexibility, working on your mobility, which will help you in all other aspects of training as well. Your strength workouts, your calisthenics workouts, even your cardio workouts. In fact, if you do any of those three seriously, you will not get around working on your mobility and working on your flexibility. And this is one of the best ways to do it as effortlessly as possible and integrate it into your life in a more sustainable manner without having to add complete stretching routines and complete mobility routines all the time. Now, I have saved this for last, even though it is probably one of the most important things you will learn when it comes to mobility, especially as you grow older, a skill that far too many people have forgotten about and that our modern lifestyle has pretty much stripped from us, and that is your ability to get off the floor from a seated position without the help of your hands, be it in a semi-squat, like so, from one of those cross-legged positions, or from this Seiza or super Seiza, by getting up from the floor without assistance, just by using your core strength and leg strength, will be insanely important when it comes to quality of life as you progress in age. So while you are working on all of those relaxing positions to get into, also start working on sitting down in them without assistance from your hands and getting up without assistance from your hands until you are totally comfortable in doing this without even having to think about it, so you can enjoy a better quality of life and enjoy your increased mobility until you reach this freedom of movement, which in my opinion should be the goal of everyone and anyone who does any sort of training, which is basically getting your body in whatever position you feel like without any obstruction and any obstacles, because that is one of the most amazing things about having a human body, both its ability to move and your creativity to move it in whatever way you want to. And for those of you who are interested, here is a very short montage of some of my favorite moments that I enjoyed in our short but amazing Japan trip. With that said, if you like the video and come on, subscribe and do stuff like that pretty regularly, especially now that I'm back from vacation. So until then, have a good one, Captain Cairo. Peace out.